We're going to move on to Nigel Farage because he's basically said in an article in the Telegraph that he was right to call migrant crossings, and we're talking about the illegal crossings into the country, people trying to come into the country illegally. He's called them an invasion. Does that offend you, or do you support that?
It does offend me, and I think we need to always remember, whatever our views on immigration, and I'm liberal on immigration as you'd perhaps expect me to be, but I think we've always got to remember that these are human beings, not animals, human beings who are searching for a better life.
Do you think
and
he's
I think
painting
Mr
them
Farage
as animals?
forgets
Isn't
that.
that a bit strong? He's not painting them as animals. He's
don't think
talking
so?
about a collective number of people who are coming into this country, and he has used a very powerful, whether people think it's appropriate or inappropriate, I'm going to leave others to decide. But I don't think he's calling them animals. I think that's a spin a bit too far on this.
Well, it may be, but
people invade, not animals.
I think his rhetoric is disgraceful. Let's put it that way. And I think that, to quote from Tony Blair, if I may, it's an issue that should be dealt with but not exploited, he once said, and I agree with that.
But surely, are you saying anyone who opposes it is exploiting it?
No, I'm not saying that, but I think it's how we talk about it. Of course, we can't have a situation where just anyone is allowed to come in, but we need to talk about it in a way which starts with compassion for those who are fleeing persecution, and which ends with a situation where...
But a lot of those people, it's argued, sorry to cut you off, Matthew,
it's all right,
are saying your presumption there that they're fleeing persecution...
Many are.
Some are, okay? Because I don't know the numbers of how many. Some are. There's a lot of young men there, single, coming over, looking for economic well-being, which I don't blame them. Just use the legal channels. Why the illegal channels?
But what are the... But what are the legal...
Hang on, you got 650,000 net migration in the country legal. Are you telling me there's no legal channels?
But Nick, what are the legal channels? I mean, for example, you know, if I was... So I'm a gay man, right, as it happens. If I was a gay man in Uganda right now, they have some of the most disgraceful anti-LGBT plus laws in the world where people are facing potential death.
Agreed.
If I was an LGBT plus person in Uganda, I might well want to come to the UK.
But you'd probably stay in France if you had a choice,
I know they always say that. Well, why don't they all stay?
It's true, though.
But don't you think that we need to be taking our fair share of people who are fleeing persecution such as that?
And we have done, and we do. Now, I know people criticise the legal routes, but they are still open. There's the Ukrainian one that we talked about. We had the Afghanistan one. And actually, what I would argue is if you're actually a young man who's an economic migrant fleeing persecution, whether it's on your sexuality or what elsewhere, surely if you got to France or wherever you are, you might then start using the legal routes, not coming over in a boat and ditching your papers, which implies you're up to no good.
Indeed, and we certainly shouldn't be encouraging the people traffickers and all the rest of it. So I would prefer there were more open routes. If the Lib Dems were in government, I think we'd be demanding that there were more.
What have you said about
illegal
immigration, actually, the Lib Dems? Sorry, I haven't been reading your manifesto
it's all right.
closely.
I don't think we've been saying a great deal about it. I think we've been focusing on the NHS, as I'm very pleased that we are doing, but you'd have to speak to our official spokespeople about what we're
right now.
saying.
Candice, I'm going to ask you a question here,
sure.
right? Because this links directly to Matthew's party, and this is very important. Would you rejoin the single market?
Yeah, this is so interesting. This is what I wanted to ask you about. How in tune do you think you are with the electorate on this? Because I've noticed that Labour and Keir Starmer, they've shifted completely on this, and they're taking, you know, a much more hard line. You know, Brexit means Brexit, and I think they've done that because they know with the 2019 election, the voters really punished them. Especially, I think Keir Starmer, even though he campaigned for a second referendum, has really rode back from that. But the Lib Dems seem to think in the future things might change.
They're being very blunt, and some would say honest. They want to be part of the single market. Why are you not talking about this more? Because if we're told the country is now Remain-minded, you guys should be championing it. But banners out there, vote Lib Dem, we're going to take you back into the single market. Why are you not doing that?
Well, you know, I said to you that our members make the policy. That is a policy that members have made. What gets majored on is then up to our leadership and our members of Parliament.
Are you being a bit coy here, isn't it? Aren't you actually thinking we might win quite a lot of Tory seats, and yet we know those Tories wouldn't actually be that keen on going back into the single market?
Well, I'll be honest about my party, and it's something I've said in private, and I'll say it now in public. I think we're a wee bit frit of Tory voters. in
That's a
some
Margaret
respects.
Thatcher term.
That's a Margaret Thatcher
Matthew
term.
was hope for him.
Used
yet.
against Jim Callaghan, was it not?
I think it was.
Oh, there you go. I know my history. But yeah, I think we're a little bit fretted Tory voters, and no wonder. We need to win all of our seats, almost all of our seats, from Tory MPs. So, but it is there. You can't deny it's there. We put it in our platform. People can read it. People know that we do want to join the single market and eventually rejoin the EU. If they really don't like that, then I guess they'll choose to vote for someone else.
Right, questions for you. Do you feel like you're in an election campaign now?
I absolutely am.
Tracy
I'm frightened.
says to me,
Yeah.
Nick, I'm reading these and I haven't read them in advance, so I hope I'm not going to be going a bit rogue here. Nick, can you ask Matthew, what about the human people in our country that are affected by the illegal immigration on every level of our lives? Now, I think what Tracy will be referring to is this complete overwhelming in many parts of the country of the infrastructure, for example. People will talk about crime when it involves illegal immigrants. Obviously, crime is committed by legal immigrants and by nationals as well. I think the point that Tracy's making and others are making is your language is always about the compassion to the immigrants, but shouldn't you be actually talking about the compassion for those in need in this country more?
Well, I'll answer it this way. Figures have shown that people who voted to leave in areas in the referendum, most on the issue of immigration, it's been shown those areas have the least immigration. So it's fear of the unknown. In the places that have more immigration,
True.
people were more likely to vote Remain.
I'm not likely to disagree with you. I've got a good example. But we all read the papers. We all see the digital media, the stuff we can trust, hopefully. We also know that there are huge issues. I mean, in my old constituency, the infrastructure never kept pace. We had a massive proportion compared to other parts of the country of asylum seekers, immigration, and it was putting huge pressure. People couldn't get appointments. Right. Shouldn't that be kind of really put first before trying to deal, if you like, with a more open door policy?
But I would say it shouldn't be either or. I would say that if we had a government that focused on infrastructure, we might have better infrastructure.
Fair enough. Now, listen, I regret doing this, I know.
Yeah.
Why are you in London, Matthew?
Well, apart from seeing your good self, which of course was the highlight of my day being here with you, I can't tell you, it's phenomenal.
I've got the dump button here if this gets boring, Matthew.
But this morning with other campaigners, because I think, to be serious for just one moment, I think you know that my mum died in 2022, 2 days after waiting 11 hours for an ambulance after a fall at home.
It's very distressing circumstances.
Very, very distressing, coming up on 2 years. And myself and other health campaigners today who've been let down by the NHS but believe in it as a public service, delivered an open letter signed by more than 7,000 people to each of the party headquarters to say to them, urgent action needs taking on the NHS.
Why have you done that? Because don't you think they're all talking about it anyway? I don't think their solutions are particularly brilliant, as it happens. Nothing on social care particularly.
Right.
But don't you? Why have you done that? I'm curious.
Well, we've done it to try and add pressure. I mean, as a campaign group, so I'm part of the campaign group Just Treatment, which is a non-party campaign group. They're talking to putting pressure on all of the parties trying to. But I think, what can you do? You either choose to sit at home and shout at the TV, or you get involved and try and put pressure on the parties. And that's what I've been doing with friends and colleagues today. Are you happy with your party's
proposals on the NHS? Could they go further?
They could go further, but I recognise that, they've not seen the books and all of that, and that's what the parties
always say. I
don't
don't buy that, by the way.
Well, that's what they always say.
My producer's now saying to me, wrap up, but I'm going to ignore him for a second. Because there is no more transparency, than you will not get more transparency. You can go to the OBR, you can find out how much we are going to spend, have spent, and all of this stuff. It's all out there. You've all seen the books, chaps. You've just got to get rid of this idea you can get into office and go, we never saw the book, so now we're going to tax you.
But the Lib Dems are pledging $9 billion for the NHS. That's a start.
Yeah, but it's not about money. We could have
it's
another
not
20 minutes.
It's not just about money.
We could have 20 minutes on this, you see. And what have you said about social care?
Not enough.
Exactly. Fail for everyone. Matthew Hulbert, really good to have you
so
here.
Good
luck
to see
with
you.
your petition. Liberal Democrats, activists. I'm sure there will be an overwhelming amount of love coming through for you on the messages.